But anyway, you got 2,000 lobbyists from Goldman Sachs and Citigroup and Bank of America and the insurance companies and the brokerage firms and so on. Where are the people's lobbyists? There are about 8. They're overwhelmed. They go up to Capitol Hill, they try to explain, they provide provisions. So I've got an amendment, which I got Senator Schumer and Senator Dodd to support, and they're the key people in the Senate Banking Committee. I hope to get Senator Shelby, the Republican ranking member from Alabama, on board. And it's quite a simple amendment. It's based on the principle that regulation cannot be enforced against the big boys to treat ordinary people fairly if the ordinary people are not organized to have their own lawyers, accountants, economists, investigators, organizers, and publicists. And so based on a prototype that we got in Illinois and San Diego in the electric, telephone, gas utility custom area, this amendment requires your bank or your insurance company, whether electronically or in the mail when they send you their bank statement, to put a notice inviting you to join your own nonprofit, non-governmental consumer action group in the financial area. So if you're a credit card user, debit card user, you've got mortgages, you're dealing with payday loans, whatever, you've got a voice. Any kind of financial transaction. So this group is called the Financial Consumer Association. And if it is enacted, someday you will receive a communication from your bank or insurance company or brokerage firm, which basically said, if you want to band together with your fellow consumers and have your own lawyers and accountants, investigators, etc., here it is, the dues are whatever, $10, $20, $25 a year, and you've got to vote for the board of directors, and they hire the advocates, and it's broken down so it's national, regional, and local. Also, it will be able to tell you what the pitfalls are. When you can't get an answer from your bank, press 1, press 2, press 3. How many times do you go through that? Why should the bank charge you $30 to $35 for a bounce check? You know what it costs them? $1.50, including covering fraud. It's a profit center. How do they get away with it? Every time you're hit with a penalty or a fee, and aren't we all hit with penalties and fees, right? The banks, insurance companies, that's what they do now. You ever say to yourself, did I agree to this? Where did they tell me that I had to pay these penalties and fees? You go to a hotel and they say, pre-authorization $50 on your credit card if you smash the furniture. Well, you got to sign, otherwise you're not in that hotel. So we have lost the freedom of contract because the fine print contracts are the way corporations regulate us, and judges uphold them, and the companies don't compete over it. So if you don't like all states' insurance policy fine print, it keeps you from going to court under mandatory arbitration, for example, or causa permanente. You go across the street to a competitor, it's the same fine print. We have a big project on this to break this open, by the way, because we've lost our freedom of contract. But you see, all these and other things are explored. Like, look at all the things we own as a people that we've lost control of. The public lands, the public airways, and trillions of dollars of research and development out of DOD, NASA, National Institutes of Health that help build the biotech industry, the aerospace industry, the containerization industry that came out of Navy research, a good deal of the pharmaceutical industry, including the most serious anti-cancer drugs, came from National Institutes of Health, your tax dollars, like Taxol, and many other industries that never let you know that it was your tax dollars that gave the research and development that built these industries. Like Intel, Cisco, Microsoft, where would they be without government R&D? You know, the internet came out of research from the Pentagon. So a lot of these awarenesses are discussed and debated, and I hope you use it as a discussion in your circle and really get moved from being concerned to serious. You know the difference. A lot of concerned people about where we're heading, and not enough people really spend the time and talent because they give up on themselves. You know, we're very good The American people are very good at making excuses for themselves about why they don't show up to town meetings or to hearings or to neighborhood groups, because we're all so busy. But when you really get down specifically to people and you say, do you want these changes? Yeah. Do you think we've got the brains and know-how for these changes? You know, like renewable energy? Yeah. Well, why don't you join some group or participate or write a letter to the editor or what? They always say, one, they don't have time. Two, they don't know exactly how to do it. It's a little complex, you know, with the legal jargon and the town meetings, city council, or whatever. Three, they're afraid of retaliation at the job. They might not be promoted. They might be let go, or they might be slandered. And four, even if they didn't believe in these first three, it doesn't make any difference anyway, because whatever will be, will be. You know, you've heard that. You know, can't fight City Hall syndrome. So we just got to give ourselves a chance. And the fact is that people do, a lot of people do have time. I've met people who really don't have time. They've got disabilities, they've got 2 jobs, 2 kids, can't make ends meet, you know, daycare, $500 a week, a month, and so on. And they just barely get through the day. But there are a lot of people at all ages who do have the time to connect with each other from the neighborhood on up. And this really goes through all of that. So there is one funny scene I'll just leave you with. One of the things they had to deal with, the 17 meliorists, they call themselves meliorists, people who better things, the mega billionaires, were the talk show hosts, the right-wing talk show hosts. And so in the book, the talk show hosts are people like Pawn Vanity and Bush Bimbo, in case you recognize. And the talk show hosts couldn't figure out this wave of change. They were trying to give it an ism, you know, like this is communism. It didn't work. You know, these guys built businesses and made a payroll. They were going nuts. They couldn't figure out how to get a handle on this. Well, finally, Bush Bimbo's ratings were declining because people were starting to give him a hard time. And he couldn't filter all the calls out. And so he decided to, for a dramatic gesture, to invite Ted Turner into his studio for a 30-minute interview. And I'll leave to your reading pleasure what happened in that session. And as I say, when you read this, you will say, look, most people can't write a novel. I couldn't write a novel. It's like being tied up. You know, you have to have a certain routine, you know. And so there are very few people who cannot write a fictional story from their frustrations of trying to get something done in the community in terms of what if. What if we had this? What if we had that? How would it have worked if we had the resources? The anti-slavery movement was funded significantly by rich Bostonians. The civil rights movement in the 50s, 60s, the Curry family in Virginia, Stern family in New Orleans, helped fund it. Is there a precedent to this? A lot of the environmental movement is funded. Even the farmer populist revolt. Once they connected with some people on the eastern seaboard, they're very careful about that. But someone has to pay for travel, for rent, you know, for copying things, for organizers. And the message is justice advances require money. They require resources. Now, Warren Beatty's in this book running against Schwarzenegger for governor. I had fun with that one. Yeah. But he thinks it could make a good movie. Although he said it would be so stripped down he wouldn't recognize it. But anyway, we'll give it a chance and enjoy it. And the best way to read it, if I may suggest, is about 50 pages at a time. Because it's very, very detailed in terms of the movements back and forth. And I have a friend who read it in one day, from dawn until midnight. And it was a huge gulp. But if you read it a little at a time, and it speeds up as the power collision comes nearer and nearer, I think you probably absorb it.